Hello, everybody.
Ah,
This is
welcome.
Dr. Khushboo Shah,
And this is Alison Cox.
and we're
I don't
gonna.
want to make fun of that. And we're here. We're both Talk to the Entities facilitators, and we're here as part of the 31 days Talk to the Entity facilitators live party because, it's the month of October, and that's the month of entities.
Duh.
ah,
All the
so
entities know that.
And so, if y'all have been here before, you know that there are many other facilitators that have come in and spoken about their stories and their why they do TTD. And we're here to share some of our experiences, tools, tips,
Yeah.
and whatnot. I think Alison has something beautiful from her
Oh
recent
my gosh.
class.
I know I have such a great story from this last weekend in Mexico City. But first, I wanted to hear, because I just think it's so fascinating that you live in India and a country that has so many entities
Yeah.
and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And
Yeah.
like, how do you deal with that? Or how's it go over there with you?
Well, before access and before talk to the entities, it wasn't that much fun. As magical as this place is, and as much as I love India, it did become very difficult on my body and everything. So it wasn't fun before. It really took some, like, I was sick, so like almost every other day, allergies, so to say. And many other things, and just generally not happy. And that was a culmination of many things, including the awareness of talk to the entities. Not talk to the entities, just including the awareness of entities. And, and as after I attended my first class with Shannon, which was in 2018, I think, um, things started moving, things started shifting. I did not need to be the effect of all of the and everything that I was aware of. And I actually started the clearing, the communication, the clearing, especially to begin with. Like, that was one of the main things required, because a lot of them were just stuck, right? And that's the heavy stuff, right? That's the thing that's like sticking and like around you and things like that. So just starting with the basic clearing after like those classes started giving my body a lot of more ease and my moods, and basically just like that sense of joy or happiness. I basically had to do something. I had to do something physical to feel better. It
Yeah.
wasn't a choice. Like, I had to go out. I had to do, like, it's always, oh fuck, where do I feel better? And so honestly, it wasn't easy before. It's only easier now. And thanks to talk to the entities and everything,
Yeah, that's so
that
cool.
gifts. Yeah. So
Oh my
it's
God.
not easy here. It's magical. There's a lot of awesomeness, but there's also a lot of, ugly, heavy, controlly,
DVD.
unconscious, demony stuff, which also needs to be looked at. So, yeah,
That's so
not
cool.
happy before, happy now.
Yeah. And easier in your body and your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
I know. I noticed that a lot too. And this last weekend, I was in Mexico City, another place that has lots of entities. And I've been to where you live and Mexico City, and I'd
Yeah.
say they're in competition there with the amount of entity
I can
activity.
imagine.
So I was doing a conscious source, conscious writer class there, but I got to bring in the tools of talk to the entities, which I'm so grateful for, because I use these tools everywhere. And if you guys dare to adventure into using these tools, like wherever you go, you might just see a lot more changes than if you don't use them, because entities are everywhere. But in this class, so a lot of people on the first day of class It was beautiful, wonderful. Everyone was having fun, but there was this weird, everyone was talking about this fog they were seeing and their eyes were foggy.
Yeah.
And everyone was kind of like happy, but also like a little anxious or depressed or something, like they couldn't quite put their finger on it. I'm like, this is strange, being around horses, you should, makes kind of relaxed, happy, whatever. But I noticed it too. And I'm like, so what do you guys think? Is this like, do you sense any entities around? And they're like, oh, yes. And so I'm like, what about the owner of this place or the lady that created it? So there was this amazing lady that was the mother of the husband of the lady who had invited me there. And
Mother is the husband of the lady that invited you there.
Yeah, easy way to say it. And her name was Teddy. And she built this beautiful place. Beautiful trees, stones, like this gorgeous, basically oasis in the middle of Mexico City. And she was really proud of it. And you could tell, like, we hadn't been acknowledging her the first half of the day. Didn't really know. And so I'm like, oh, well, let's just acknowledge her. So we said hello to her being, her entity.
So just to clarify, that lady wasn't alive.
She was not alive. She did not have a body anymore.
Yeah. So that's what she's talking about.
We really, no, but we really talked to her like she was there. Yeah. Entities are actually there. And just acknowledging them can shift and change the energy. But so we just started talking to her, and she really had, we just had a conversation with her, really, like, she felt like she had to still stay there and protect the place and make sure everything was going correctly. And the lady that was her daughter-in-law, she was like, oh yeah, that's exactly how she was. Like if she were to be embodied here and we were having this class, she'd be like looking at it, like staring at us the whole time, making sure everything was going okay. I'm like, that's awesome. So we kind of acknowledged that and how wonderful she is and thanked her for her contribution and let her know, hey, you know what? You don't have to protect this place anymore. You can actually relax. You can leave if you want. You can stay, but know that Sophia and Roberto, the son and daughter, that they have your back and they have this place and they're going to take care of it for you. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, everyone's like, look, a butterfly. There was a butterfly in the dirt, in the middle of everybody, just hanging out. And a butterfly was actually like the sign at her funeral. There was butterflies there. They had them embroidered on their sleeves, and that was like the sign of basically this lady. And it was like everyone was bawling and crying. And not every time do entities give you the movie dramatic thing of there's the bird that is flying that equals this person, but a lot of times weird things can show up depending on you and what you're willing to receive and all kinds of stuff. But the butterfly was just so beautiful and such a cool acknowledgement of this lady and what she was creating there. So there was
that. I love that. So that's the gift, right? So imagine, especially in countries like ours, there's so much stuckness. And imagine you died tomorrow and you want to be acknowledged, that there's something that you want to say to somebody that you cared for, and you're just like, hey, I'm like, can you hear me? Like, hey, I'm right here. But like everybody's just ignoring because you're aware, but you're not turning your attention to it, but you're still aware. So you're also picking up that frustration, which is not really an angry entity, but it's just this like this thing. Hey, I'm right here. Can you listen to me? It just needs to say this to you so that, we can have ease, or I can move on. And then when you turn your attention to that and you receive that information, suddenly there's like this whoosh, this lightness for them, for you, for like whoever is involved. And that's such a gift. And I've seen that happen so many times for so many people. And that whole trauma and drama around death seems to just like go away.
Yeah. Or not being able to say goodbye or say you're sorry or whatever it is. Yeah. It creates so much space when you acknowledge, and they get to be acknowledged and, send their message through before they go. Otherwise, they might be there for a long time.
Yeah. And so what else is possible? And we've got like these different things we do in India also. We have this whole period just before we started, and I wasn't very aware of this. There was like this whole period where it's about ancestors and just I don't even have full information, but it's about like letting them know and letting them go as well, but also not letting them go. So anyway, so if you're aware in the last 2 3 weeks of a lot of things here, you may just want to turn your attention to just like who's hanging around you, like what's going on, who's hanging out, who's asking for your attention, what's happening. Just turn your attention to it. Like, that was the first thing that Talk to the Entities taught me is instead of like when it comes to entities, I grew so scared of entities and like just like I don't want to look at it because it's always terrifying, right? It's not like la 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 la. It wasn't after a period. It was probably when I was like a tiny kid, but after like through teenage and then through my early 20s, it just became such a dramatic place and very scary that I never turned my attention to this, and I tried to really push all of these things outside of my awareness, and but that doesn't work either. So I had like I couldn't sleep, etc., like all of that stuff. So what Talk to the Entities did is all these blind spots that I created when it came to my awareness of entities, I started not letting them be blind spot and just turning my attention to it. So because the first thing that would come up was fear, right?
Yeah.
So one of the first tools that I started using was interesting point of view, like really, because that was the first thing that I learned after my first bars class, and I just went like, interesting point of view, I have this point of view, interesting point of view, I have this point of view, and I would just turn my attention to it, and even if all of that stuff came up, I would just go interesting point of view, I have this point of view, till I could relax and just turn my attention to it, and that basic thing in itself started changing a whole lot of my uneasiness towards my awareness.
Right.
What's your favorite tool? How did you begin? Or
Well, I love that too. Basically, the tool of awareness and interesting point of view, but also I perceived entities probably pretty similarly. I was, really scared as a kid and was very scared as a teenager and adult, but didn't know that it was entities. But once I found out once I took my first Talk to the Entities class, I got so much relief in space knowing that I wasn't crazy or I didn't have to live in this contracted shell that I thought was just normal. When I started to acknowledge, I'm aware of entities and aware of entities in different countries or different places, I can clear them or just acknowledge them and things get easier.
because you traveled a lot, right? Like
Yeah.
you traveled a lot, and you traveled to different countries even before access.
Mm-hmm.
Before Talk to the Entities. Yeah.
And yeah, it was hard. So I don't know how or why I had so much fun traveling, but yet it was the scariest thing I have ever done without having these tools. But I'm like, I'm gonna do it anyway. And what I love now, I kind of embrace and do not mind at all when I start to have anxiety or anger or upset, because I'm like, oh, something's trying to get my attention. Almost anytime, I guarantee you, I know that if I'm being me, I'm most likely going to be space, happy, joyful, looking for the humor in things. But if I'm cranky, upset, and especially if it lasts for a few days, I'm like, okay, what is this? Who does this belong to? Is this an entity or something else? And then I'll clear entities, but sometimes it'll still stay there, and I'll be aware of this energy that's still there. And I'm like, what is this? And almost every single time, if it's an entity, it's because I had asked for contribution or to cooperate with a certain entity. So let's say if you get Shannon's talk to or entities and money, you can actually start to learn how to talk to entities that will cooperate with you to give you more information about how to be more successful with money, finances, etc. I remember the first time I ever did that, I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. And a few weeks later, or maybe a week later, I was just upset. I thought I was going to go bankrupt. All these weird thoughts were in my head, but I was just acting normal to everyone else. But I was freaking out about money, especially. And I was like, what is this? And finally a friend of mine asked me, she's like, well, is it an entity? And I'm like, I think so, but I've been clearing them. She's like, well, does it want to be cleared? I'm like, oh. She's like, did you ask for something recently? And is this entity showing up for that? And I was like, oh, wow. I just took that entity call. I just like asked for conscious entities or beings to come play with me in the world of money. And I didn't realize I was blocking out. I had put the entities that were contributing into the same group as the entities to be cleared. So that entity was there like, hi, I'm here. And I'm like, nope, don't want to look at you. And in doing so, I was getting the opposite effect of what that entity was here to do. And the moment I acknowledged this entity, this goblin, it was a goblin whose name is Mortimer. He's great. The moment I acknowledged him, everything shifted and changed. And we've been friends ever since. So he still hangs out sometimes and pops up in different places. And my money changed.
That is so cool. So that, right, like we tend to put all entities into this one box, like, and most of us, like, they're bad or scary, right? But as I did talk to the entities, and you realize that it's such a massive kingdom, and there's so many different kinds of entities, and they're not all good, but they're not all bad, and there's good, bad, ugly, everything. And there's some that actually want to work with you, and that you are actually working with, that you're not even aware of right now. Um, so, and you start working with them, and it starts changing your financial reality as well, because especially, as a doctor, the entities facilitator completely makes sense. Changes your financial reality. But even if you're not a facilitator, it starts your receiving, and it then starts changing your money stuff as well. So that not all entities are bad. And if you're trying to put all of them into one thing, you may want to just uncreate and destroy and just go interesting point of view and have this point of view, and just start turning your attention to what is rather than what you think it is. And well, the Talk to the Entities curriculum will help you to get more clarity there. So that was the other thing. You start getting clear, and you start getting an awareness of what you're aware of.
Yeah.
Like before that, it's all like glumping and I'm not sure what's going on. So the best way to do whatever is to just avoid it and but then when you start putting your attention, and when you get those tools, then you start becoming clear of what's actually going on, and you don't have to, and have ease with it. And then you can also receive, and you can clear when it's required. And when it's demony shit, you're like, hey, fuck off, and like do the demon clearing and do other stuff. But you start trusting what you're aware of, and you don't start lumping everything into one. And that was freeing for me.
Right. Absolutely. Me too. And
awesome.
Yep.
Is there something else you want to talk about?
There was, and I was like, what is it? But it just came back. I was like, oh, I loved what you were saying about the class and the freedom stuff too. And I love that for me, the Talk to the Entities classes are just this like space where I get to relax and play, and kind of see, when you're out by yourself and you're in India or in Mexico City or in Denver, and you don't have like a group of people there to be asking you questions or facilitating you, or you facilitating them. It's a little bit different. So I love the classes of Talk to the Entities, because it's just a space where you can go in and have a safe space, whatever that means. But it's just a place to go in and dive in and see what you can do and experience, and without judgment and without having to get it right or getting it wrong, and really explore what you know about entities, and then take all of that out to the real world.
The real world. Yeah. It's amazing. And well, if you've been aware of ghosts, you're not crazy, you're just aware. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're not crazy, you're just aware.
You're crazy enough to be aware.
You're crazy enough to be aware. I love that. Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope this contributed to all of you guys out there. If you have questions, please ask us. And there's many more. There's many more facilitators coming in, and this is going to end with Shannon, the founder of Talk to the Entities, doing this mega powerful live on the 31st as well. So catch that as well. and hope this contributed. Thank you, Alison.
Yay! Thank you, Khushboo. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.